Go live right now. 1, 2, 3, bang. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of VR365. What is going on? I am live in the building, but most importantly, I have special guest kevgret, which is a guy I've been wanting to talk to for a very long time because when I think of PlayStation VR, I think of kevgret. He's like almost like the unofficial spokesman of PlayStation VR. In the same way, you guys might remember Noah with Magic Leap. Noah was like Mr. Magic Leap and kevgret kind of Mr. PlayStation VR. So I always felt whenever I was talking about something very PlayStation VR related, I'm like, oh no, how's kevgret going to react to this? Kev, what is going on, man? How you doing?
Yo, Ant, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Really excited to do this. Obviously, not excited about the reason that we're doing this. And I mean, we're doing this because I wanted to do it anyway. But man, we've got bad news in the VR world. Possibly some of the worst VR news that we've heard since, like, I don't know, like CCP Games when they decided they weren't going to do VR anymore. The developer of like Spark and like Eve Valkyrie and all of that. Like, what's the last big bad VR news that we've heard compared to this that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it, and it's like I can't really go back that far. I mean, game delays are pretty bad news. Like Iron Man was delayed 3 times, Gollum was delayed for years, but I've never really seen so few words spark so much controversy in the community. I mean, you go to the PSVR subreddit, it's on fire, with all this conjecture about what those words mean for the future. I can't remember anything that has sparked so much controversy.
Yeah, well, it's because the words that were said kind of insinuates that like VR is not a major concern for Sony anymore. And I mean, shit, if you invest, like if you just bought a PlayStation VR recently, they're selling them. Like I could go to Target right now, right? I could go to Costco right now. I can buy a PlayStation VR bundle. Don't you believe though that like even if Sony is, let's just say worst case scenario, Sony is backing away from VR in a major sort of a way, even if that's true, don't they have a bare minimum responsibility to deliver a couple additional big games and allow for more PC VR ports, or like stop selling the systems in the store because brand new people are buying it? And if I go to Target and I buy something and it's like $200 and $300, like I'm thinking it's going to be good for like 3 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, the current situation is Sony has been leaving PSVR owners in the dark with information. I mean, just look at what they're doing with the PS5. We barely know what was going on with that launch. We barely got the UI interface videos in the last couple of weeks. And now you have PSVR owners not knowing how to plug their system in, what's going to work with it, what games are compatible, how it's going to work. Is there a boost when you put these games in? And they definitely owe a bare minimum to the PSVR community as to outline exactly what the transition period is, what games are coming, if any. I mean, there are a handful, but first party games are getting very thin. I mean, look at this year alone. I know we've had Iron Man and a
Hey,
couple of
wait, hold
patches.
on one second, one
Yeah.
second. So if you're going to go into that, let me go
Oh,
ahead
sorry.
and no, that's fine. Actually, let's talk about that really quick. So hold on, I gotta resize you over here in this other window. Whoops, that should not be moving around. Let's put this back here. Let me get you resized really quick here. There we go. And yeah, so one of the things that we can take a quick look at here is the last 90 days for PlayStation VR. And this is like I did this rant very recently. Like one of my most recent shows, I kind of went crazy. I like went way overboard. I was like throwing F bombs like they were going out of style. It was way over the top, but in hindsight, goddamn, it's kind of weird. But if we look at like the most recent releases, so one thing I keep track of is like the last 90 days. And we might be missing a couple games because I think a game came out on the 29th, kind of like a sneak attack game. Was it the Twilight Path or something like that? Or I
Yeah,
forget which
Twilight
one.
Path and Ninja
Yeah.
Legends came out, I think,
Oh,
Friday.
Ninja Legends. Yeah, Ninja Legends. Because we have Twilight Path on here on October
Okay.
22nd. We have that. But Ninja Legends is the one that I don't have on here. But like looking at the last 90 days, I was like, oh my God, there's only 7 games. Now, that wasn't true. There was actually like 10 games. I had forgotten a couple games. I didn't know that this Mortal Blitz was like an actual real game. I
Yeah.
thought it was like a DLC kind of thing. And so I somehow thought Pistol Whip came out earlier. So I made a few mistakes. There were actually like 10 games maybe, but I still thought like, isn't this kind of like, this doesn't make sense, man, because like when I do one of these last 90-day things, like I'm not used to seeing all these coming soons like this. That is a lot. I've never seen that before. And it's almost like just one of these signs, like scientists noticing that there's like certain whales that are beaching, it's like a sign, it's revealing something. Something is a little bit amiss. And PSVR gamers will be like, yeah, but here's what you don't understand, man. There were a lot of big-ass games. Like, I forgot about Minecraft, too. Minecraft, Pistol Whip, Until You Fall, Star Wars Squadron, Vader Immortal, budget cuts. Swordsman VR, I guess, is actually sort of decent.
Yeah, it actually turned out to be his best game.
Interesting. Okay, because I know some of their other games have been a little bit mediocre, right? And especially the PC VR versions of it. But yeah, so recently, have you noticed this as well, Kev? Even going back a little farther, that like sometimes it's a bit of a drought season on PlayStation VR as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. Over the last year, I've noticed you have to go back to, I think, May of 2019 when the Quest 1 first was released. Go back and look at that release week. You had Blood and Truth, Five Nights at Freddy's, Everybody's Golf. And then the Quest had all their games. And it was like, this is amazing. This is what it's going to be like. And then time went on and you really didn't get that consistency, especially from the first party studios. And now what you're getting, if you really look at these releases, Ant, you're getting ports from the Quest. I mean, Pistol Whip was on the Quest first. Vader Immortal, budget cuts as a port. You're not getting any Swordsman's an original IP, but it's on PC as well. But it's clear to me, and I think the developers, that PSVR is not the lead dog anymore, and they're definitely taking a step back.
You know what's a good thing for Sony, though? Luckily for them, like, the argument that I just had that they're selling it at Target, they're selling it at Walmart, you can buy it at Costco. You have a moral responsibility, Sony, to continue to deliver product for these people that they don't know that something's dead. They don't know what Jim Ryan said. So they're buying this thing, they're taking it home, they expect games. But Sony is super, super lucky from the standpoint that there is a never-ending stream of PC VR games that are from indie developers that they would love to have 1,000 extra sales. So that's one little good bonus for Sony. But let's go ahead and let's go back here and let's get into these actual quotes. Let's take a look at the quotes that Jim Ryan said. This was in the Washington Post article. And this way we can figure out, what is actually going on here. Why is everybody up in arms? And is PlayStation VR essentially dead? Okay, so one of the things Jim Ryan says is he says, I think we're more than a few minutes from the future of VR. PlayStation believes in VR. Sony believes in VR. Okay, so PlayStation believes in VR, Sony believes in VR. That makes me feel good. But he's talking about how we're more than a few minutes from the future. And I think ultimately what he's saying there is trying to read the tea leaves, I would almost say that he's saying VR is not really ready for prime time yet, kind of. We believe in it, but it's not really ready for prime time yet. Any quick comments on this little quote before we move on to the next part of it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty weird that he's saying, that we're a few minutes from VR. PlayStation believes in VR and Sony believes in it. But they're the ones that are pushing the whole meaningful experience. They came out and they took over the market with sales. They were the ones pushing it. And now when you read these quotes, I think they're taking an evaluation of what happened over the last 4 years. And now they're saying, even though we are the leader in sales, I think what he's saying is it's not profitable right now to continue to be the leaders and lose money until it's viable enough. And basically what he's saying is they're going to let Quest have the market.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a lot to read into that, but I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, I kind of think that that's probably really what's going on, but I just wonder, okay, hold on. Let's get to these quotes. We got another one here. He says, "We definitely believe at some point in the future, VR will represent a meaningful component of interactive entertainment. Will it be this year? No. Will it be next year? No. But will it come at some stage? We believe that." Okay, so now in this one, he's talking about some point in the future, VR will represent a meaningful component of interactive entertainment. When you say that, you're also saying that it isn't right now. VR does not represent a meaningful component of interactive entertainment. And I think the translation there is it's not worth the effort on their part. For them as a huge corporation. See, the thing a lot of people fail to understand, I think, about VR is the infrastructure, the behind the scenes costs that people don't think about for having like a hardware that you're selling, you're shipping it. Retailers have to store it. It's in a larger box. End consumers get it. They have problems with it. They have questions. They don't know how it works. There's a myriad of things. And Xbox, up until this point, you can say what you want about Microsoft and Xbox, but they've dodged that entire bullet completely. They haven't had to deal with support. They haven't had to deal with getting an entire stable of VR developers. They haven't had to deal with shipping large boxes and having hardware devices and having to deal with repair of hardware devices. What do you think about all that, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Jim said, I think that's what Microsoft has been saying for years. They're waiting for it to become meaningful, which is why I'm surprised that the company that jumped in and wanted to make it meaningful is now retracting everything they've done over the last 4 years and says, well, what we've really done is not meaningful. And yeah, say what you want about Microsoft. They have stead the course with their comments from day one about VR. They said, we will get in when the time is right. So now for Sony to actually mimic what Microsoft is saying after they've got in for 4 years and spent the money, they have the infrastructure, they have the assets, they have everything in place. To me, it's surprising that he's saying that. And what it tells me is that this current leadership of Sony is not interested in continuing down this course for the next 4 years at this current rate.
Yeah, and then of course he goes on to say, will it be this year? No. Will it be next year? No. Now, some people are taking those two sentences and they're saying he's specifically talking about PlayStation 5 VR. And so he's specifically saying there's no VR basically on PlayStation 5 other than the limited backwards compatibility you'll get when you order your adapter. Of course, you got to buy a box of Lucky Charms. You got to send in 2 stamps. No, you go to this website that crashes every 5 minutes.
Really.
So no VR this year for PS5, no VR in 2021 for PS5. But does this mean so 2022, man, we're back, 2022.
Yeah, I don't think his comments can be taken a bunch of ways. And I think what he's saying is that VR is a meaningful component of entertainment will not be here for at least another 2 years. Then the question becomes, well, does he wrap his VR2 into that? And I'm not sure that in 2022 you will see a PSVR 2, because he could have easily said, we don't think VR is meaningful right now. We have teams internally working on something. He's not saying any of that. And these guys are very measured in what they say and how they say it. So I think he's actually sending a message to temper our expectations for at least 2 to 3 years about what Sony's going to work on and put out.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a look at his last quote here that was related to this. This one seems to be a little bit more upbeat in general. And so what he's saying here is we're very pleased with all the experience that we've gained with PlayStation VR, and we look forward to seeing where that takes us in the future. So, trying to end it on a positive note here related to VR. And he's saying, look, we've gained some valuable experience. We're pleased with that, and we're looking forward to the future. But it's kind of weird to think, well, you're gaining this experience, but like you think about somebody that's like playing tennis, right? And they gain a lot of experience. They don't take 2 years off and then start playing tennis again later.
No.
On the good side of the coin, one of the quotes that we did hear is that something about there not being a public, there's not going to be a public VR headset for PlayStation 5 anytime in the future. There was some kind of quote that was related to that. It wasn't like a direct quote, but it was something that was mentioned. And that sort of suggests that they are still going to be working on headsets in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I believe that they have to be working on something. They're not going to let $2 billion of R&D, sales, infrastructure go to waste. But what's troubling is, look at this camera adapter situation. If they were going to continue with PSVR 2 and release something in the near future, 2 to 3 years, why have they not put something in that camera to make it just hook up to whatever they decide to in the future? Why do you need an adapter if they are going to continue? Because now, let's say 2 years from now, you have a PS5 and a PSVR 2. Will that camera somehow integrate? Will everything else integrate? It's almost as if like they're not sure what they're going to decide on. And, I'm not even sure in 2 years they're going to have specs locked down. This might be a 3-year situation that we're going into, which would put the original PSVR at 9 to 10 years out retail and like 13 years on a tech calendar, which nobody's going to be making games for the PSVR in 2 to 3 years.
Man, you know what? There's so many possible angles that you could look at this announcement from, because Sony could have made an internal decision about how they believe about VR, and it might not necessarily be a negative like they might not be anti-VR. Some people think, oh, Sony has decided that VR was kind of a bust and they're backing away from it. That's a possibility. That is one of the possibilities. But another possibility is internally they've decided that they have to go in an unconventional direction, which is going to take several years to happen. They know people are expecting VR. PlayStation 5 is just about to come out. They knew they would eventually have to deal with this question. And so they're getting in front of the question and saying, VR isn't really happening right now, so everybody's just going to have to chill. But meanwhile, in the background, maybe they have a very specific strategy. Here's one idea I'll throw at you. So, when the original Quest came out, this is a true story. I was in line at GDC to try the Quest before it came out. This was 2019. This was March of 2019. I was in line, waiting in line. And you know who was standing right in front of me? Shuhei Yoshida. Shuhei Yoshida was standing right in front of me, and I should have tried to talk to him, but I didn't want to bother the guy, because how many times do people bother him? So I didn't bother him, but he was like waiting and waiting and waiting to try the Quest. We were in line for literally an hour, and he ended up leaving. He didn't, and I was like, oh, I should have told somebody at the front, this guy's kind of important, maybe let this guy in and let him try it. But do you think there's any possibility that with the arrival of the Oculus Quest, when it came May 21st, 2019, and then now this Quest 2 just bam, out of nowhere, kind of, catching people off guard as well, do you think it's possible that Sony is like completely reconsidering their overall VR strategy in terms of it being an attachment?
Absolutely. If you go back to when the Quest came out, I believe that's when Sony started to change some of their messaging. You didn't see as much advertising. The first party titles, to me, didn't come at the rate that it should have. And I think the biggest telltale sign, sales probably slowed down to 50% of what they were before the Quest. They were on a sales hype train, announcing million sales every year. We have not received any new update on PSVR sales for almost a year. So what does that tell you about what has Quest done to the PSVR and its sales? And that definitely makes you look at, as far as a leadership perspective, what are we going to do since Quest has come out? What do we need to do to compete? Do we go wireless, which reduces battery life with the high fidelity? Do we stay corded? Sony's put themselves in the situation where they have so many questions to answer compared to a Quest, where Quest knows what they are. They're a cheap wireless device. Sony's a little different with the console. So they have way more decisions and way more questions that they need answered on their next device, which to me is why they're taking their time with this.
The bottom line is, well, let me just ask you this. Why have an accessory for PlayStation 5? What are you really gaining with that? Because the one downside with that is you're limiting your potential market base to people that already have PlayStation 5s. Now, everybody will quickly say, yeah, but there's 100 million PlayStation 4s. But we also have to remember this. They didn't get 100 million PlayStation 4s in the first year or the second year, it took a while for that to develop. How many PlayStation 5s are immediately going to sell this year? That's dependent on how many Sony actually manufactures. And then the same thing in the entire year of 2021, how many PlayStation 5s are they going to sell? And then if you add both of those numbers together, and then you say, oh, we might only get like 8% of these people, maybe 10% if we doubled what we did in the first case. What is 10% of that number? Is it really worth all the incredible effort that has to happen? Or are they better off waiting until there's 30 million PlayStation 5s that are already owned?
Yeah, that's the problem when you have an accessory as opposed to a Quest when it's an all-in-one device. You are absolutely correct that in 2 years they'll have a bigger install base, and they could be looking at that and saying, yeah, in 2 years we'll have X out there, and that X will translate to X sales for PSVR 2. But the longer they wait and the longer they give up the market, the more the competitors will become entrenched, and now they're going to have to put way more effort and money to get back into the game than sitting out on the sidelines in the next 2 to 3 years, even if they have the best headset.
Yeah, one advantage that I thought that Sony really had over like Xbox going into the future, because I thought, well, if we eventually move to VR, then Xbox is at such a disadvantage in comparison to Facebook and Sony, because Facebook and Sony have these libraries of classic VR games, and they can always keep the absolute cream of the crop of that particular library and make sure that it's backwards compatible for their future systems. So people coming aboard have this nice big library they can look at, and maybe like classics, maybe they could have a monthly plan where almost like a Viveport subscription kind of a thing. And that's an advantage there. But if they really like kind of walk away from VR in a way, then they're not really maintaining that like ecosystem as like a continually like developing ecosystem. They're kind of abandoning it and then maybe restarting it later.
Yeah. And we know once you stop something, it's very hard to restart it. The worst thing for Sony was the Quest, in my opinion, because it's forcing them, and the change of leadership, so between the Quest, the change of leadership, Sony has really tough questions to answer. And to me, 2 years waiting out, the weeds are going to grow. And in order to get that garden back, it's going to cost a lot more money, because by that time, you're looking at Quest sales that are 5 times what Quest 1 was right now, according to Facebook. If they release another Quest in the next 2 to 3 years, it's only going to get more traction. Facebook account login aside, let's not get into that. But what you're doing is you're giving up possibly 5 to 10 million units of sales in the next 3 years to Oculus. Now you're asking those people to come back into the Sony ecosystem and asking them to take that leap of faith that they're not going to abandon it in another couple years, or they're going to have the library on day one. That's the other question. You wait 2 to 3 years to get this device. Now you got to build the library up again, because who wants to play a 5-year-old VR game, even if it's optimized for, PSVR 2?
Yeah, it's really, you know what, I think one of the biggest problems here is $299. I think honestly that is the freaking problem. Facebook has such a tremendous war chest of money that they're basically buying customers. They're just straight up buying customers. They're buying market share. The Quest 2, there's no way in hell that thing should be only $300. It's got to cost more than that to manufacture. They're taking real legitimate losses on every one of those babies sold. It goes back to the simplicity of, you can just go to Target, you go to Walmart, you buy one box, it's got everything there. There's no processor box, there's no wires. Now the Facebook account thing, that's a whole other ball of wax. But if we're just looking at what it really is, and $299, if I'm Sony, I look at that and I think, are we going to get into a bloodbath war with Facebook? Like, what are we going to gain from that when they've got engineers that have been working on this since like early days? I mean, Sony has engineers working on it early days as well, but Sony didn't pay $4 billion for a VR company and bet a part of their entire future on this like nascent market, you know?
Yeah. To me, Quest is Sony's worst enemy, because when they announced that $299 price, that was them saying we're here to stay, and we're doing everything we can to acquire customers. And even if we lose money to do it, we're going to put more people in our ecosystem than your customers. And at that point, Sony had a decision to make, and it looks like they're going to hedge their bet for a little while and see how Oculus, works out over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. So on a brighter note, one thing I do want to say, so like we get into this PlayStation VR is dead. PlayStation VR is dead. And the thing is like, look, tomorrow when we wake up, I think our PlayStation VRs are going to turn on again. And I think if you want to fire up Astrobot again, you're going to be able to do it. And you're going to be able to fire up Wipeout. And also, I'm going to go ahead. Let's switch over here to, let's see. I want to go to this one here. Yeah, let's go back over to our web browser here. And one thing I want to show is like upcoming PlayStation VR games. I want to, this is not complete death and destruction as much as we're making it out to be. The future is freaking dire. Like, don't let that be. But we do have games that are coming. We have games that are coming later this year. We have games that are coming in early first quarter next year. Games are going to be coming in spring next year. Games are going to be coming in summer next year. And then, of course, they'll have the farewell Christmas season. Yeah. Farewell, PSVR owners. These are the final games. Thanks so much. But in terms of what we have coming up, Hitman 3. How crazy is this that there's going to be people in the United States and around the world that are going to buy a PlayStation 5. They're going to buy a Hitman 3 VR. I mean, they're going to buy Hitman 3 on PlayStation 5. They have a VR headset. And they're going to be like, wait a minute, something ain't working.
Yeah, and to me, that's what Sony has to get in front of and lay out a document that talks about the future of your current headset. It's logical to assume that if I buy Hitman 3 on PS5 and my PSVR is hooked up to a PS5, it should work. But that messaging is not being conveyed. The hardcore know it. But the people in January are going to be like, why isn't it working? Now the game is opened. You're not going back to Best Buy or Amazon to get the PS4 version. Now you're stuck with the PS5 version that doesn't work with VR.
Don't you think, just on this subject of Hitman 3 and this like weird oddball situation, don't you think it would be smart for Sony to like, we'll handle this. If somebody does this, we'll give them a free VR download somehow. Like shouldn't they just do something so like this just isn't even an issue?
Yeah, that's what Microsoft does. They do cross-gen. If you buy, let's say, Gears of War 5, it's good on both systems, Xbox One and Xbox Series X. If they did that, that would alleviate this. But look how Sony handled the Spider-Man upgrade. You can't they're not giving it to you. You have to buy a $20 more version of Miles Morales to get the upgrade for Spider-Man. So they're not even showing you that they're willing to do that right now.
Well, Hitman 3, if you buy the PlayStation 4, I don't remember how it works. If you buy the PlayStation 4 version digitally, then you get a free upgrade to PlayStation 5. And then if you did that, would you still be able to play it in VR with your backwards compatible and also be able to play it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's confusing.
That's the question.
It's confusing.
And I'm a physical guy, so I buy most of my media physical still. So I have to be very careful and do research for every PS5 game that comes out that has PS2, VR compatibility.
Dude, you care about physical ownership? You like owning things? Oh my God.
There we go. No. Oh no. Yeah, exactly.
You like owning things. That's so weird. Okay, but yeah, in terms of great upcoming titles, though, we do have some stuff. So Hitman 3, I'm still, like, my PSVR, there's dust all over there, man. But I'll tell you what, it'll get wiped off when this thing finally comes out. Okay, after the fall, we haven't heard from Vertigo Games about this game. Like, we don't have a date or anything. I could easily see this slipping into first quarter, but that's a big game. Sniper Elite VR. Really big game. And originally when it was first shown, it was all PlayStation VR with the aim controller and everything. So you would think it would arrive first on PlayStation VR, or at least same date as everywhere else. Undead Citadel, that game's been, hyped up as a pretty big PSVR game. Solaris is still coming to PlayStation VR. First Contact Entertainment, they know how that system works very well. That game should still perform pretty good on PlayStation VR. Wraith the Oblivion, Firmament is still coming. Blunt Force, maybe. Maybe it's still out there. Humanity, Vin VR Adventure, Ilzia, Redemption's Guild, Tarzan, Alvo, Panzer Dragoon. Okay, Star Child, I know. We're wishing upon a star with that one. That's where, you know what? Every once in a while, we'll rank something on VR game rankings, almost like hopeful. We did that with Pixel Ripped 1989 on Quest. We kept ranking it, and it's available. But you got to buy it as a DLC. It's funny. But yeah, there's still big games coming to PlayStation VR. But the question is, after this group of games finally filters out, I mean, then they can go to PC VR, retread games, and also, like you were saying, Quest games. So games that are designed to work for Quest, they should be able to port quite easily to PlayStation VR, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, just look at the last, few releases for PSVR. Vader Immortal, Pistol Whip came out on Quest first. Budget cuts, that's where hopefully the PSVR library can grow a little bit by taking some of these games from the Quest and the PC world and bringing them over. When PSVR first came out, it was bolstered by the indie devs. Then we sprinkled in a little first-party games. And now it looks like in its latter years, it could be bolstered by the Quest library. There's still a lot of good games on the Quest that needs to come over. What's that? Shadowland. There are tons of games that probably could be cleaned up and just brought over with a small team. And in the next couple years, that's how the PSVR could live.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I mean, but there are games coming. So it's not a complete and utter disaster. We do have games coming, but let's go back. I want to go back though, and let's think earlier this year. What did you assume was going to happen with PlayStation 5? Because I honestly thought they would take a game like Astrobot and a game like Farpoint. I thought they would take a couple of their real true cream of the crop VR games that they have on PSVR 1, and that they would get either the same team that made that game or maybe another team just to help out and be like, dudes, can you take this game engine, use the power of PlayStation 5, use higher res textures, convert it, whatever, get it running at a native 120 frames at the actual resolution of PSVR 1, or maybe even double that resolution where you're super sampling it, and let's make these things look really cool. And they could have 6 or 7 games that would have this type of update with it, maybe even work with a couple of the big third parties that had really big PSVR games to do the same thing. And then now you're giving all these people an incentive to buy a PlayStation 5 if they're really into VR. The problem is, the argument I always hear is, there's just not enough of us VR people for them to really care about that.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about what you actually get when you put in your PSVR 1 into a PS5. You're getting backwards compatibility and slightly faster loading times. You are not getting any upscale, what you're talking about. We know the PSVR 1 can handle any type of graphic upgrade that these developers want to do, but you're basically getting a walled off PSVR backwards compatibility environment, which is to me the worst case scenario. I thought what we would get when we plugged in our PSVR 1 into a PS5 is a boost mode that these developers can go in on a case by case basis and do exactly what you just said. Imagine putting in on day one a game you already own, Astrobot, and now you're looking at it with a whole new fresh coat of paint, and you're like, this is amazing. I'm glad I bought a PS5. But you're not getting any of that. They are treating this as a separate device, backwards compatibility only. And if the developer wants to do it, I believe they have to re-put it out on the store. They cannot just take Astrobot and fix it up and give it to you. So that's the worst case scenario, in my opinion. And that tells me that they don't have a future in mind, or else they would have done that. And the longer that we waited for information, the more the conclusion that I came to that we were getting exactly that, just a backwards compatible machine at the very most. Because their silence was pretty much a year. They've had plenty of time to prepare us for what their intentions were with this device. And every, state of play, every article, we're like, this is the day we're going to get information about how this works. And now they put themselves into a corner, and most of the information that we're getting are from articles, not from official type of memos or documents about how this works.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you think, because they still haven't really answered our questions. They came out with this statement, and this is kind of like, bam, we just took a right cross, and it's going to take us a little while to recover from this. But do you think maybe sometime in late November, later this month, or maybe in early December, Shuhei Yoshida or somebody will sit down with somebody and do an interview where they kind of talk all about VR and be like, look, we're not abandoning, they could have a PR thing where at least they're like, look, we're not abandoning VR. Here's some new games that are coming, and, we're still working on technology. We just don't know when the right time is. We don't have a headset right now. We have nothing to announce, but we're not quitting VR. We're not giving up on VR. Do you think they're going to do something like this relatively soon where they lay out a little bit more details and we kind of really understand what they're doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so, but when you go back to remember the state of play that they said they were going to do instead of E3? State of play was so VR heavy, and that got such a backlash from the entire Sony universe that might have scared Sony a little bit to be so focused on VR and these state of plays and the communications that maybe they are waiting until the launch is settled, maybe around December, and they will do a FAQ or an AMA on the future of what their device PSVR, how it works, their future intentions. Because right now, everything that Jim said, it's just left to interpretation because we really don't have any more answers than we did. So it would be nice that after the PS5 is launched, give it 30, 45, 60 days, and then just have a quick video, 10 minutes, clarifying statements, talking about the compatibility, what happens if you buy Hitman 5 and it doesn't work. That would be something that the community would find benefit in.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm going to try to look up something really quick here. Apple AR. So I wonder if you heard about this news. Okay, let's see here. Let's bounce back over here. And so did you hear about this Apple AR deal with Sony? And Sony's going to be supplying their micro display, possibly. And this would be a big deal for Sony because if this becomes the primary screen for Apple's AR future, which is going to be gigantic because Apple, they want to defend their throne and the threat of a next era in computing. They've dominated it when it comes to mobile computing, complete and utter domination with the iPhone basically. And to secure the future of that, whatever the AR future is, Apple has to be very involved in that. So they're taking it incredibly seriously. They've got 1,000 engineers that are working full time on this. and Sony supposedly is going to be supplying the screens. When I first heard about this, it actually caught me a little bit off guard because I'm like, wait a minute. If Sony really wants to compete in this game, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're like Coca-Cola, do you give special technology to Pepsi? Like, if you're trying to compete in this game, do you work with like another now, from a pure money standpoint, being able to sell this display, and Samsung supplied like the screens for Apple for the longest time, and their major competitors as well. You know, so sometimes, I mean, companies will work together. But did you hear about this news? Did it ring any little alarm bells either about like wait a minute, aren't you trying to do this?
Yeah, no, actually, I haven't heard this, but companies form joint ventures on the side all the time to do, type of exploratory situations like this. But my first reaction is, why would Sony give the competition any type of heads up on what they've researched and put money into? I really don't, maybe that's the meaningful contribution that Jim was talking about, as far as providing meaningful contribution. He's going to make big money off of the sales of these screens. And that's how Sony can stay involved in VR, you know?
Yeah, it just struck me as odd. Like when that news story came up, I'm like, if you're really aggressive about this stuff yourself, like why wouldn't I guess Sony also though, it's potential. I mean, it's within the realm of possibility that Sony's like, look, we're not messing with AR. We'll mess with VR because when I think of the long-term future, like 20 years from now, what are people going to be using? Are they going to be using AR or VR? And I think the way it's going to split is it's going to be like a home theater. So like, when you're working all day and you get off work and then maybe you have like from 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock, you're watching TV in your living room type thing. I think VR is going to kind of take over that space where AR is going to be the thing that you're kind of wearing all day long. And you'll also do a little gaming on AR as well. But like when you really want to get into the deep experiences, that's where you go VR. And for Sony, because they're a company that does home theater, that's their specialty, they need to stay with VR. But maybe AR, maybe they're like, look, we're not going to compete in AR, but this technology will work great for AR. So we're okay with doing this deal with Apple. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you've always said AR is the future. You've been beating that drum for years now, and this could be a step in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's see, people will say, yeah, but AR games are going to suck. Like, why would I want to play games on AR? I disagree with that. I think there will be good AR games, but I'm just wondering if this has anything to do with, the news. It's just Sony. You would think they would want to compete in all these different categories, and they wouldn't want to necessarily help a competitor. But there's so much money to be made over there. But and what about you personally as a VR gamer? So let's go to this question. Is there any reason for a real VR enthusiast to own a PlayStation 5 right now? And the bonus question is, if somebody has a PlayStation 5 on pre-order or whatever, and they're primarily a VR gamer, should they basically walk away from that pre-order and let it go? Like why spend $500-$600 for nothing?
Yeah, if you buy a PS5 and have a PSVR, you're going to get basically pro mode on your PSVR 5. So there's really no reason, in my opinion, to spend $500, $600, $700 because you need the extra DualSense, you need the charging station, you need all that. On day one, if you are an avid VR only gamer, if you stick with your PSVR Pro or PSVR base model, you are not losing out on enough to spend the money on. Like, let's say there's 10% boost for getting a PS5. Is that worth $600? And to me, it's not. And people are canceling their pre-orders based on Jim's statements, even if they're not 100% clarified. People are making the decision for themselves that $600-$700 is not worth putting it out for a PSVR only gamer.
Yeah. What about you yourself? What are you doing?
Well, I have everything pre-ordered. I have the Xbox, I have the PS5, but I think I'm going to actually keep my PSVR plugged into my PS4. I'm not going to get in that confusion because here's the thing. I don't know if we mentioned this, you still need your DualShock for the PS4 with the PS5. You still need all your accessories out. It's not like when you buy a PS5, you can tuck away and sunset your PS4 in a box. You need the wands, you need your DualShock. So it's going to be a big clutter mess anyway. So I might just keep my PS4 hooked up, don't move the PSVR, have my DualShock 4, have my wands, and not even get into that mess of hooking it up at the moment. Because then I need a camera adapter, So now, it's like,
You got to buy a box of Lucky Charms.
yeah,
You got to
exactly.
send in the
I have
stamps.
enough cords in my room now. Now you're adding an adapter cord that might have to be plugged in separately. It's actually a mess. And I would advise most gamers that are into PSVR, and if they're only buying this for the PSVR, do something else. Save your $600-700. I'm only pre-ordering it because I have credit at Best Buy. I was able to get some Best Buy.
Do you play
orders.
flat? Do you play flat much?
Over the last 2 years, well, no, since I've gotten PSVR and Oculus, no flat games. But I will be honest and say over the last couple years, and I feel I've gotten into a little bit of flat gaming again. And it's because I feel Sony has, I don't know, just hasn't been consistent. And the games getting released, there hasn't been so much AAA games that I have taken a peek at some of the flat games like Doom. I played some Tomb Raider. And I'm just waiting to get passionate again about VR. Like Rogue Squadrons was a game that got me back into VR, and I've been playing a lot of it. I just need more consistent releases from the VR. I did not buy a Quest 2 because I felt a little burned by spending $400-500 on a Quest 1, and 16 months later it's outdated.
Yeah, the Quest 2, though, to be honest with you, like everybody that panicked and immediately sold their Quest 1 to get a Quest 2, the difference is, like, unless your IPD is like 63.5 or something, I don't know why you would do that, because, like, it's going to be a long time before we really see, like, dramatic improvements in actual Quest games running on that. Because, like, I've tried probably 10 different Quest games that have been updated on Quest 2, and they play smoother. I was just playing Space Pirate Trainer. I was just playing Super Hot. Both of them butter smooth. What do you call it? Job Simulator. I was just playing that. Butter smooth, man, on Quest 2. But it's not like you put on a Quest 1, you're like, oh, this is Job Simulator. Put on a Quest 2, whoa, man, this is Job Simulator. It's not like that at all. It is such, like, I don't even know if it's like PS4 Pro and OG. Like, it's such a small difference unless you're, like, looking at every little detail in the corner. Even then, man, it's minute. Now, maybe a couple years from now, that'll be different. But then Quest 3, bam. Like, they're not playing around, But what about this? Do you ever do PC VR at all? Do you ever play any PC VR games? Because if you do, wouldn't that $600 be better spent on like a new graphics card or something?
Yeah, just to be clear, I don't do PC VR. I don't have a high-end PC at all. In fact, when I started watching your show...
But this could buy you one, bro. This could buy you one.
Yeah, but then you're stuck in upgrading your graphics card every 6 months, and you're into that whole world of every day you're upgrading your components. But I didn't get into the PC side until I started watching your show on a daily basis. When you were doing your daily show, and you and everybody in chat was educating me on the PC side of VR on top of the PSVR and on top of the Quest. But yeah, actually, if you have $600 and you have a PSVR and there's no real reason to buy a PS5, there would be a conversation to say you might want to do. And if you have a Quest and you could do the link cable with an upgraded PC, that might be the opportunity there instead of buying a PS5.
You know what is really, really crazy, though, is I know people out there. There are definitely people like this. Now, a lot of them, maybe they're just making a lot of money, and so money is trivial to them. But I know these people where it's like all they really do is play VR. They've already pre-ordered a PlayStation 5. They just assumed everything would be good, just like I assumed everything would be good, just like you assumed like we all assumed there would be VR games, there would be updates, there would be new games that could only work on a PlayStation 5, but also did VR with PSVR 1. Like this could have been a completely different world. It didn't have to be this way. But there's these people that they're still buying that PlayStation 5, like even after this. And in a way, they're kind of throwing their money away, but it's like such an ingrained habit of like, maybe they're kind of like a Sony person. It's like, yeah, Sony, go. And now they're like in a weird spot.
Yeah, if you go to the PSVR subreddit, there are those that still believe it's coming in the next year, PSVR 2, and there are a lot of people that just blindly believe that no matter what Jim said, it's taken the most positive way that they can spin it, and they just believe, and they got their 600 hours, and they're just Sony. Whereas, I'm not that. I have a PSVR. I have 120 plus game. I love it, but I'm not going to sit there and go Sony when there's situations of things that are happening that can be interpreted, the way that we're looking at it. I'm not just positive pro Sony, and a lot of people are, and that's good for them if they want to buy into that ecosystem. But 600 hours to on the chance in a year you're getting PSVR 2, that's a big gamble.
But here's the thing. It is absolutely guaranteed because Blair Renaud, developer of Lo-Fi. So no, this is really funny. If you go to the PlayStation VR subreddit, there are so many different threads where it is doom and gloom, people trying to spin a positive one, every different angle you could possibly imagine. But the funny thing is, in every doom and gloom thread that is out there about this, somebody will jump in there at some point. Yeah. They'll be like, yeah, but Lo-Fi, man. Lo-Fi was confirmed for VR. Like Blair Renaud, he said, this game is definitely coming to PlayStation 5. It's not coming to PlayStation 4. I mean, what else is there to say about this? It's a done deal, right? Jim Ryan can say whatever the hell he wants to say. But Blair Renaud says VR is happening next year, baby.
Where is Blair? I want him to clarify his statements.
Yeah, no. So Blair, here's the funny thing too, though. If Blair sees this little clip right here of me talking about this, he's probably going to have a field day on it. But I got to be honest, Blair. I'm going to be straight up and honest. And here's what I'm going to say about this thing. When he first did this, so this was like June 11th, 2020. And he says, Lo-Fi, coming to PlayStation 5 in 2021. Pre-order and get early access on PC now. And so this was added to like the Kickstarter and everything for Lo-Fi, where it's like coming to next gen PlayStation VR or whatever. It was all added in there. And a lot of people took this information and they went running with it. And they're like, oh, shit, confirmed. Yeah. It's been locked in. I mean, even websites have been like, well, there is this one game, Lo-Fi. And so all of this publicity was incredible for Iris VR. Anytime anybody mentioned PlayStation 5 and VR, a lot of times they would mention, well, there's this one game, Lo-Fi. And everybody assumed that there would be VR on PlayStation 5. I'm sure he assumed it. I'm sure tons of other developers assumed it as well. And he might have just got out in front of it and said, yeah, man, we're going to be on PlayStation VR too. Of course we are. And came out and said it already. And then now, like, I don't know, man. Or does this guy got inside information? Does this guy got a top secret PSVR 2 headset ahead of everyone else? What do you think about this?
Yeah, but we know now for sure that any PS5 VR game cannot play. It has to go through the backwards compatibility via the Hitman 3 scenario. So if he is saying that his game is coming to PS5 VR, we know that's not true because you cannot play it on the current headset. So then you have to see, well, he's talking about PSVR 2. And if he is, then he has to clarify that he has knowledge that there actually is a headset. Because right now, I think he just took a leap of faith. He jumped off a cliff and said something. And now he has to kind of say, oopsie, I was just inferring that there was going to be a PSVR 2. Because Sony has come out and said you cannot play PS5 VR games on a PS1 or you got to play through the backwards. So that statement alone is wrong with what he said about PS5 VR.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible as well that he could have thought in it, he could have thought to himself, well, in an absolute worst case scenario, if somehow, some
Yeah.
weird, like unforeseen way, there is no VR on PlayStation 5, I guess I'll just convert this into a flat game and it'll
Yeah.
still be playable on PlayStation 5? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the bare minimum. If he said it's going to work on a PS5, correct. But if he's saying PS5 VR, incorrect, based on what Sony has been telling us. So then what he has to do is make a PS4 version of the game in VR if he wants it to play immediately on PSVR. If he wants to wait 2 to 3 years, then yes, he can probably get a PS5 PSVR 2 version if and when that comes out. But now you're talking about 2 years of making no money on the VR version.
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers. Hard to say what is going on here, but this is the one thing that everybody's pointing to. And it'll be interesting to see if he does come out and, says, look, I've kind of made a mistake with this one. I thought there would be VR and we just assumed it. And so we said, yeah, we'll definitely be there. We're making it. We're going to do it. I don't know. I wonder if he'll back away from it or if he'll just like try to quietly disappear into the mist and won't say anything more about it and see if
Yeah.
everybody forgets about it, because because this game is a straight up VR game, so for him to try to convert it to like a flat game so he can
Yep.
say, well, we were hoping for VR but I guess it'll be flat on PlayStation 5, that seems like a lot of time and effort that I don't think he's going to want to deal with. But
Yeah.
yeah,
You almost feel bad for him because he was just trying to be as positive can be, assuming that the future of what Sony was going to do is integrate the PSVR 1 into the PSVR 5 base so he could make his game into VR. And he was probably just assuming, like the rest of us. I'm sure if he comes out and clarifies, the community will be fine with it. He's the poster child for everything positive that the Sony fans wanted it to be. And that's the issue, that everyone took his quote as, yes, confirmation. And now if he doesn't come out and say anything, we have enough information to say he can't put this out on PS5 as a PSVR game. He can't do that unless he does a PSVR 4 version of it. So that's what he needs to clarify.
but he
Uh,
said it's not coming to PlayStation 4. Like I think he's actually said publicly that like lo-fi for him to get it running, because you could to bring a game, you can't just have it be on PS4 Pro. It has to run on OG PS4. And
yeah.
I think he feels that lo-fi would be so compromised running on an OG PS4 that he
Yeah.
has no plans. There's no way lo-fi is coming to PS4.
Well, then
So
he has to clarify the situation because he's stuck.
or
You
he
know.
can just, or he can basically just try not to say anything. But I mean, he is the poster child right now,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, in the PSVR subreddit, everybody, oh, they're saying I'm way louder than you. In the PSVR subreddit, everybody is like just going crazy about lo-fi. That's all they talk about.
Well, if
Um,
you look at the PSVR subreddit, that's the staunch supporters there. We are looking for something to put hope on. Any bit of information that just gives us some type of footprint that says, "Hey, PSVR 2 is coming." And unfortunately, he's the person back in June that gave us hope that something is coming in the next year, 18 months, until we got this quote a couple of days ago that puts everything that happened in June like negatively. And now this guy is in a situation where hopefully he'll just come out and clarify and say, I misspoke, you know, and we can move on and leave him alone. Leave him alone.
yeah, it's good press regardless, because
Yeah.
goddamn, everybody knows what that game is now, so people know about lo-fi.
Yeah.
Um, so you do have a Quest. So you've
Yes.
decided to have a Quest and PlayStation VR. That's basically what so
Correct.
prior to your Quest, you were 100% PSVR guy.
Yes. Correct. Day one PSVR owner. Um,
When
and
did you
100.
get when did you get your Quest? Did you get it right away or was it a little bit later?
No, day one as well.
Oh,
I
okay.
picked that up first day, and you know, it was such a different experience from the PSVR. Just the wire experience alone, it was just so freeing to put that on and just go anywhere in the house, even outside. And my wife, who has never enjoyed the PSVR because she looks at me and says I'm a robot with all the wires and cords, she puts that on and she's like, I can deal with this. This isn't a bad situation, you know. And that's why I got it, just to check out the tech and to get the different games on that system. I bought Beat Saber on Quest and PSVR, but I play it on Quest more, just for the free ability of it and the wires and not getting caught up in it. So that's my VR experience.
Yeah, there's always been this debate like, what's better? Should you buy a Quest or should you buy a PlayStation VR? And some people will claim for PlayStation VR, like the argument they'll make is like, good luck playing a game like Farpoint or Resident Evil or, on your Quest. Like you're not, like, even if the PSVR has lower resolution and it's watered down and stuff, you're never going to get like an experience that's truly like Farpoint on an Oculus Quest, is their argument. But on the Quest argument, the thing is, you've got, like, what do we complain about on PSVR? No thumbsticks, maybe not necessarily ergonomic. You go with the Quest, you got controllers that melt in your hands, thumbsticks, it's perfect for VR, and you've got this volumetric cube that you're playing in where it creates the Guardian. It's 360 all the way around. We've all played various PSVR games where you start to get out of your, cone of vision, you get screwed up, and then you got to remember to turn back around. You do have the processor box, millions of cables and stuff. How do you consider that? Like, what about the Farpoint argument though?
Yeah, I mean that is the 100% top argument from PSVR people. But it can't play Borderlands, bro. You can't play Morrowind. But the trade-off is it's not portable. It's not 360. Just compare the Vader experience on Quest and then compare it to PSVR, and it's not as freeing. You're stuck in one room where you have your setup. So for me, if those PSVR people say it's not as powerful, they're right, but it also is a complementary device that you can have that can play different experiences better, to me, than PSVR, just for the opportunity to walk in a bedroom and put it on, or have my wife play when she never would put on a PSVR headset. To her, that looks like just a bad situation.
Okay,
So
one advantage though, please,
yeah,
PlayStation VR. When I put the PlayStation VR in my head, it's like a pillow. When I put the Quest 1 on my head, it's like I just put a brick on my head and took some duct tape and
well, I have the Halo strap on my Quest,
oh, you
and that
do? Oh.
definitely changes things. When I used to play with the old strap, it would just make my head itch. It would feel like it's pulling on it. But the Halo strap, I think V2 is the one I have. It's a whole different experience. It's almost like, the PSVR experience. It's got a tightening knob. It comes over, and it's much easier to play long sessions on. So yeah, you are right. The PSVR is the most comfortable headset out of the box. But if you mod your Quest, spend a little more money, you can get close to the experience of the PSVR comfort level.
Yeah, Gamertag VR in chat says, this shouldn't be an argument. I go where the games are. System fanboys lose out. Now, here's the only
Yeah.
argument about that. Okay, I remember the days, Super Nintendo, Genesis, like back in the days of all the classic video game systems, right? I actually owned every single one of them because I was like a nut job guy back then. And the thing is, I could go into Toys R Us or KB Toys or whatever toy store, like video game store, and I could look at all the sections, and so I could look at all the Super Nintendo games, and I could just pick whatever the best game was. But the
Yeah.
thing is, a lot of people are not in that situation. A lot of people pick one item. They're going to have one item. They're going to roll with one item. That's that. Like not everybody is an enthusiast that wants to have 5 different VR
Yeah.
headsets. Some people just want one. There's a lot of people that believe in what is it, like what do they call it, like not simplicity, minimalism, right? Let's like, I don't want to have extra stuff, minimalism. So one VR headset, that's it. But yeah, if you could have every VR headset, if you could have every VR system and every ecosystem for VR games, it's beneficial to do so, of course.
Yeah, but look at what's happening right now to the releases. The PSVR is getting the drips and drabs from the Quest right now. So if you have a PSVR, I would say just wait it out. You don't really need a Quest if you're looking for those games because they're all coming to the PSVR. In the last few months, we've gotten some of those games, like a Pistol Whip, Vader Immortal finally came. So if you're buying a Quest just for the games library, I would say just wait it out because those games are Until You Fall is on both. There are not many exclusives that you would want to spend $300-400 on the Quest for when they are coming to PSVR. If you're looking at comfort, accessibility, that's a different thing. But if you have PSVR, I'm not sure right now it's worth spending the money on the Quest if you're not just curious about it. Because the game, like Gamertag said, it's all about the games. Well, how many games are not coming to PSVR eventually? You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. And especially with this new stance, like PSVR, the crazy thing about it, it could live for years into the future if Sony will just allow these these indie studios that are making PC VR games to port their games over and make it worthwhile. The problem is, I actually know some indie developers that are doing PC VR games, and I've asked them, like I talked to them and said, "What about PlayStation VR?" And what they tell me is the process of going through Sony and getting your game finally approved to actually be on the store and everything, they say that it's like an incredible headache compared to like all the other platforms. Like putting it on Steam is so incredibly easy. Even putting it on the Oculus store is very easy compared with Sony.
Yeah, and pre-Quest, Sony was the lead platform, so they dealt with those headaches. And if you talk to any developer, they say it's an absolute nightmare to get through what Sony makes them do. And there's a lot of no communication. You have to just figure it out. And since the Quest, now you have Quest and PC and Steam. That's the lead platform now. That's look at Beat Saber multiplayer, already out on Quest and PC. Won't be coming to the PSVR until next year. Look at some of these releases like Pistol Whip, came out last November on PC and Quest, right? PSVR didn't get it till July. And it's because Cloudhead Games says it's the situation you have to deal with Sony. Now, when Sony was the lead on this, and that's where all the sales were, you dealt with that situation. But now when you can make a game faster, easier on the PC side, now you're pushing PSVR slightly, to the left and saying you'll get it eventually, but you're not getting it day one. Curious Pets came out, I think, first on Quest. All the games are coming out on Quest, which is why I said you're going to have to wait it out because Sony has put so many obstacles compared to what Quest and Steam and all those guys do that, yeah, it's a situation now where they dealt with it because Sony had the sales. But since Quest 2, now it's more of a hindrance than an opportunity to deal with all these headaches.
What about the year of 2020 so far for PlayStation VR?
Yeah.
I've made this comment even going back to last year. I made a comment that it seemed like there should be a more consistent arrival of big games like Blood and Truth and Everybody's Golf and stuff like that. Like those need to be more frequent, I always thought. I thought Sony did a great job of having these really big games like Borderlands when that was an exclusive for a while. Skyrim was an exclusive for a while. And they would have Astrobot and they'd have all these different games that they would bring out. Some of them kind of missed the mark. They had a few that didn't really turn out as good as they wanted it to be. What was that one game that came with the gun, Bravo Team or whatever?
Team.
Yeah, that didn't work out too good. And then there was that horror game from, what was it, Supermassive Games, The Inpatient or something?
That one.
It
was The Inpatient.
Yeah. That one maybe didn't fare so well. But they were, and then you had like Deracine and so they've had these games, but it seemed like they kind of backed away from it, and it's basically mostly been ports coming from PC VR, even going back into last year. But still, what do you think are the standout games for 2020 so far for PSVR?
The standouts really, like you said, are coming from the ports. The number one game of PSVR of 2020, Saints and Sinners, The Walking Dead. That game, hands down, if you own a PSVR, you need to own Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. It does everything right that you're looking for. Has the immersion, has the story, has the Walking Dead, property. It has great voice acting. It's a full-length VR game that is one of the knocks on VR. It's basically a AAA title, and it's on #1 on most lists, not only on 2020, but it's on most overall lists of the best of PSVR.
Yeah, so how does that one feel from a standpoint? Because like the PC version of this game, I haven't tried the PlayStation VR version, but for the PC version, the number one thing about this game, you have your two hands in VR. You're using your move controllers, I'm assuming, and like grabbing the zombie's head with your left hand, and then bam with your right. Like just that simple interaction was really kind of the key to the whole game, because it just felt so visceral. It felt so good. You could stab it from different angles. You could try to just do a one-handed stabbing where look ma, no hands, and you just boom right into the side of the head. Does that feel good with the move controllers and all that?
Yeah, it actually does. They did an amazing job. And, again, I don't have PC VR, but people have said this is as good as it gets, for the conversion that you could have hoped for. When people play VR, they want to feel like they're in there. They want to grab things. And this game makes you feel like that. You're grabbing zombies and putting it anywhere you want. You're opening drawers. You're using your hands. And the moves, for as old as they are, they have found a way to make those moves relevant in this game. And again, that's why it's so well done.
And sometimes one advantage that the Move actually does have on a lot of VR controllers is the rumble will be stronger than a lot of other VR controllers. Maybe it's just the size of the Move controller itself. They're able to put a bigger motor in there or whatever, but I feel like it has, like sometimes I'm in various PSVR games and the rumble is really, it's at a higher level to me. It just almost has like a better rumble, if you will. But yeah, no, we've seen ports on PSVR. We've seen stuff like Red Matter come over to PSVR and look fantastic on the PlayStation VR, where it was such a insignificant downgrade. I mean, just like a minor downgrade, basically the same freaking game, and that's pretty incredible. What about Paper Beast? Did you ever play that one? What did you think? Or were you not a fan of Paper Beast? I was always a Paper Beast guy.
Not a fan of Paper Beast.
Oh, man.
Great concept, horrible execution, if you ask me. The puzzles aren't puzzles. You're basically just trial and error, throwing dirt around. I thought it was great because of the world building that they created, but there's not much there, if you ask me. You're just pushing and pulling. Like I got stuck on the second part where you literally just move dirt, and I didn't know that was a puzzle, moving dirt so the guys can go somewhere. But as far as the visceralness of playing and seeing these beasts, but I'm not that high on Paper. I would not put Paper Beast in my top 5 of 2020.
That makes me of PlayStation VR games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just PlayStation VR.
Yeah, would you put it in the top 10 of 2020?
Not
for you personally, right? But...
I'm looking at my list, and when you have stuff like Until You Fall, Squadrons, Pistol Whip, it's tough to stick that in the middle. It might be on the back end, maybe like in the top 15. Even Final Assault to me is better than something like that, and that's a port.
Yeah.
Pixel Rip 1995, that's to me better than Paper Beast. I would put that in there.
See, here's the thing. So what I would have to imagine is like atmosphere and vibe and like surreal, like music and wind and stuff doesn't really do a hell of a lot for you. Because I'm assuming that because there's like different kinds of gamers where it's like, oh man, it's the vibe of Paper Beast, man. You're in this different kind of a world. It feels kind of mysterious. But some people are like, where's the action? Where's the real puzzles? This is too simple. I will say the graphics are pretty freaking muddy on PSVR.
Now, you might think that, but I will say one of my faves was Separation, which is exactly what you were saying. There's nothing going on in that game. It's a walking simulator for most of it. But that atmosphere, that vibe pulled me in more than Paper Beasts. There were better puzzles, I believe, in Separation than Paper Beasts. But you would think I wouldn't like Separation because of what you said about Paper Beast. But Separation, to me, is close to a top 10 game of 2020 for PSVR. And it's made by like one man, basically. He sold it at a great price, a nice, 4 to 5 hour campaign. Um,
Yeah. Separation, I that's a game that I've never tried, and it's definitely very atmospheric. That's what it's celebrated for, so that
yeah.
might be one to check out. Yeah. Other is there other things you can think of in terms of like, well, what about did you try Pistol Whip or
Oh
Until
yeah.
You Fall or
Yeah. Pistol Whip is definitely, well, I have it on Quest. So they say the experience is the same. That's definitely a top 10, possibly 5 game. It's a John Wick simulator. It has everything you want. It's got vibe. It's a workout game. It just oozes atmosphere. The Cloudhead did such a good job with that game, and they continue to build on it with free DLC. There's a single player campaign coming like next month. That's a game that is definitely not only top 20 or top 10 for 2020, it's a top PSVR game, no doubt about it.
yeah, have you heard like we think about all these great games that are kind of like multi-platform or they're PCVR, they've been translated, a game like
Yeah.
Pistol Whip or whatever. But have you heard of any that have come to PlayStation VR where the translation was a complete and utter dud? Or are they
Well,
all
yeah.
basically pretty freaking good?
No, you hear bad thing about Vader Immortal. You hear that
Oh.
that was not a good translation from Quest over. They don't like the walking that they implemented. There's graphical glitches. Most people tell you do not buy that game on PSVR.
Mm.
If you have a Quest, buy it there. And in fact, I think it bombed so poorly when it debuted a couple weeks or a month ago that it's on sale on the PSVR store right now, and it has never, in my recollection, been on sale on the Quest. It's always been 10, 10, and 10 for the episodes. It has never been on sale, but it's on sale right now for $22 on the PSVR store. So that tells me sales were not what they wanted, and it was due to the poor port.
The thing is, the developer is, I believe, ILM, or what is it, ILM X Lab or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, like, they're not like a traditional video game developer, you know what I mean? That has experience putting things on all different platforms and stuff like that. So I could see that being a possible problem. Like them
Yeah.
getting it on the system, it works, but maybe being a bit glitchy and it already had its own problems on Quest as it was from a standpoint of like you have to stand in a specific spot and it's like don't move, and if you get your head too close to a wall, that there's like some weirdness with that game Vader Immortal. So yeah, oh
Yeah.
okay. But other than that, most of what you see come over has fared pretty well.
Yeah, I've played most of the ports. I think one of the underrated ports of the year coming from PC is Shadow Legend VR. Came out in January of this year, made by a couple of guys, and that port is well done.
Ooh, I
Well done.
tried that. I tried that on PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
Yeah, so a lot of these ports are coming over correct. It had free locomotion. The climbing mechanic was great. It had weapons, melee. So Shadow Legend to me is definitely an underrated game of the year, and it came out almost a year ago, so it gets lost in the shuffle. But to me, when I played that game, I was like, okay, maybe we will get good PC VR ports. And then you started seeing like Final Assault. You started seeing like
And
Until You Fall, which is good.
yeah, Final
Gorn.
Assault is a great game. What about Gorn, actually? That's interesting. How did Gorn fare? Because the big worry, of course, with Gorn is, the cameras, right?
Yeah, Gorn divides everybody in the community. You either like it
Oh.
or you hate it. And it's not so much for the port, it's just
Oh.
because of the game and the
Yeah.
mechanics. And it's like when I played it, I was like, nah, it's just not for me. It's like 5 minutes of fun. The walk, the way they implemented locomotion is just not good. They brought over all the
Yeah.
problems of the
Oh,
port.
God.
So you're like, okay, this is cool. And the joke of the community for years was, "Where's Gorn? Where's Gorn? Where's Gorn?" And we were like, "Why do you want Gorn so bad? It's not that great." And then we finally got it, and everyone's like, "Okay, Gorn's here. What's next? This isn't what we expected." So yeah, I wasn't a fan of Gorn, but not so much for the translation of the port, just for the source material.
I
It's just
wonder, though, like, because the key for me with Gorn, Like I remember like when Gorn first came out on PC VR as well, it was like Gorn, Gorn, Gorn. It was
Yeah,
like this super big deal. And I finally
yeah,
got it like begrudgingly. I think I ended up getting it like on a Steam sale or something. And I finally tried it. And then what I did realize though is the collision detection is really where this game shines. Like when you know
yeah,
how they have the armor on their bodies, right? And you're like wearing down bits of their armor, and just the way your battle axe or whatever it is makes contact with their armor, and just that collision detection, the interaction there was like
yeah,
sublime. And but
yeah,
I don't know, did that translate? But
yeah.
even
That
on PC
translated.
it did. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Now,
that's the key.
I would say, and I hate to say this, if you're looking for that type of experience with the interaction with armor,
Swordsman.
play Swordsman. I hate I hate to say that, especially given their pedigree, but that is a game. If you line them up, you get that experience with different. And Dismemberment is coming to that game. They have different places. You have helmet hits, you have body hits. So to me, get Swordsman. It's 1999. They update it almost once a month now. They're going to have a Halloween update. There's a pirate update. So
God.
that's where you should go. I know.
And you no, but you know what? Look, I've just judged them from their past because I know on like they have this game called The Last Sniper or something, right?
A perfect sniper.
A perfect sniper.
Yeah.
And they base it on, as far as I know, on the PC VR version, they just kind of like walked away from the game and stopped working on it. And then they're doing all these like PSVR ports, and people are like, wait a minute, don't you want to like get this thing working right before you start working on other platforms? And so, you know, there was
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of that. But hey, they could finally make a good game. And you know what?
Yeah.
Blade and Sorcery, like Terry Blanchard is mentioning Blade and Sorcery. He says it replaced Gorn for him. But for
Yeah.
PSVR people, there's no Blade and Sorcery. Imagine how well that game would have
Mm.
sold on PlayStation VR because everybody cries about it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Blade and Sorcery is something everybody wants. Um, and if we had that, then Gorn and Swordsman's no longer needed. You would never want those games. Even Until You Fall is a nice melee hack and slash type. You know, if you're looking for that quick visceral combat with swords and different type of fluid movement, Until You Fall is well done.
Yeah, Until You Fall is really good. It's very hard though. Like
Yes,
I
yes,
get my ass whooped in that game. I need to
yeah.
go
Even on
back in there
easy.
and try it. I haven't been in there in a while, but I really the thing that I love about Until You Fall is like I'm a guy that likes vibrant colors, bright, you know,
Yeah,
boom. It's like this game is
yeah.
just bam, just eye candy like a mofo.
Oh, it's color. It's what, yeah, exactly. Because most VR games like Separation, it's just gray. You know, most games are Paper Beast is a little colorful, but there's still brown sand everywhere. So this game hits you like a rainbow, and you're just like nice. And then you get to the combat, you're like, wait, I don't have time to look around because you're always on guard. And yeah, that is a game I recommend for top 10 2020 Until You Fall.
Yeah, that's good that it got a good port there. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's nice.
they're dependent on these games coming over and
Yeah.
actually being relatively high quality ports. So yeah, I mean, where do we go from here then when it comes to PlayStation VR in general? Like so you're saying that all these, well, let me ask you this question, Kev, because in the VR gaming world, one of the worries that I have is you have new people that get excited about VR that have they've never had VR before. Maybe they finally tried at somebody's house or something. They finally tried Beat Saber, or they tried this game called Phasmophobia, or they tried something
Yeah.
new. They tried VR and they're like, ah, yeah, I want to get VR now finally. But my
Yeah.
worry is that these people expect VR to be like a normal type of console where there's like constantly big games coming, and then like 5 months later it ends up in their closet with dust all over it. We've seen this happen with people buying like Oculus CV1s and Rift S's, and then like, yeah, I bought a Rift S and I played it for like 3 months and now it's in my closet. Do you think VR is just going to kind of be this nichey thing where we're just going to have to be able to be, we just can't be as demanding as like the general gaming populace?
You know, we've been saying that for years that we are a niche of a niche and it will get there someday. Well, now if you listen to Jim Ryan, it's not coming anytime soon. We have to temper our expectations on what we hardcore gamers expect out of VR. The knock on VR was it does not have full experiences like Morrowind and Skyrim and Borderlands, but they're coming. I don't think they are. We're going to have to live with these nice games that, like an Until You Fall, like Rogue Squadrons is a perfect example of a great VR game. That might be the most we can expect. But yes, we have to temper our expectations. It sounds like, when is that tipping point coming? It sounds like it's not coming, according to Sony, for 3 years at least. If you ask Quest, it looks like they're saying it's here because they've sold 5 times the amount of Quest 1 in the last few months. So for me personally, I think I'm going to be happy with what comes, enjoy these ports, enjoy what's coming on the Quest that's exclusive. Sony has to get their act together. They have to provide a clearer vision to us. When they're ready to share it. But don't expect that PSVR 2 is coming until 2022, late 2022. And just enjoy your PSVR and your 6-year-old tech. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a back catalog, you've got a nice back catalog. And then also going back, like if we want to try to spin this in a positive direction, I'll say that Sony could have a plan that we don't know about. Like they might be betting very big on VR, but just in a way that we don't know about. They may have decided that the future of VR is a device that you buy in a singular box and a PlayStation 5 isn't required. They've had PlayStation Portable, PSP, they had Vita, they've had these little platforms before, and they could see this as, you know what, we could have a platform like this. And Quest 2 and Quest 1 could have made it obvious to them, but they can't rush something like that. They've got to take their time with it, and they know that it wouldn't be a popular announcement, so they have to prepare people for, like, you know what, maybe forget about VR from us for a little while. We're going to go work on this other thing on the side, and when we're ready, then bam. And yeah, some people kind of wish it worked for PlayStation 5, but we're going in a different direction, because something like Astrobot, like think if all these classic PlayStation VR 1 games worked on a nice standalone where you were playing Farpoint and Astrobot and Blood and Truth, like somehow, like with this future generation mobile processor that maybe isn't available right now, but would be available for a 2022 spring launch. And I mean, how cool would it be to play these kinds of games in a wireless headset that's completely standalone?
Yeah, that's great, but it sounds like that's not the direction based on the PS4 backward compatibility. If they want Blood and Truth on the PSVR 2, they have to make it again from what I'm reading, and they just can't make this catalog open, which is what you would want when you get a new headset. It's like we talked about it before, where imagine on day one you have 250 games optimized for like your new headset. It sounds like that's not what we're getting.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's impossible for them to just, like, they can't just press a couple of buttons and have
No.
Astrobot working on like
Yeah.
a Snapdragon. It's going to be a lot more complicated
Yeah.
than that. But they could take like their choice games and just have like this could be a new plan for them. They could decide we are going to essentially have the PlayStation Vita of VR, and it's going to go up against Quest 3, and this is going to happen in 2022. And we want classic franchises like Astrobot and Farpoint and Blood and Truth, and we'll hire somebody. Like the game is done. They don't have to redo the entire game, but they have to get it working on this other architecture. But they don't have to like storyboard stuff and plan things out. Like that's been handled.
Yeah. But, wouldn't you have thought by now, Anthony, that we would have had a Farpoint 2, some type of confirmation that they're working on sequels for the PSVR 1? It sounds like they're giving up first party support, and letting the indies and the ports come over while they figure this out. That's a little disappointing to me, that while they're trying to figure out the future, they're kind of not even supporting the current platform.
Well, that's the argument I made with like somebody going to Walmart today and buying a PlayStation VR package today. If
Yeah.
somebody buys a package today, like you look on the back of the PlayStation box and there's like pictures of like Farpoint and Iron Man and stuff like that. Usually there's always these things that are in the future where it's like, oh, I'm excited about this. what is the real excitement right now in the future? It's Hitman, and that isn't
Hitman.
Sony, right? That's IO Interactive.
No.
That's a third party
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think they're making Hitman exclusive. I'm not sure. For a little while on PlayStation, they might have paid some money. You also have Elite Sniper. So to me, they're the two bangers coming out in the next 4 or 5 months. But beyond that, what has Sony said? What is
Wait, what was the other one you mentioned besides Hitman?
uh, the sniper, Elite
Oh,
Sniper?
yeah.
They're
Okay.
they're the two big ones that I think are coming out. But two games in the next 3 to 6 months, it's like, if you're a new PSVR owner, you have to go back to the back catalog and not really look forward, if you ask me.
Yeah, if we're looking at this list, I don't see a game that is coming from Sony at all. Like there
No,
is no
yeah.
so there is no at this moment in time there is not a single Sony made VR game that we know about that isn't out yet, like a la Iron Man VR. There's nothing like that.
Yep.
That
No.
is kind of crazy.
And didn't they close the Blood and Truth studio? They're not working on VR, you know.
Yeah.
And here's a weird twist. They bought Insomniac, who has a VR pedigree. So what are
Yeah,
those guys working
I thought
on
there would
right
be
now?
I thought there would be Spider-Man VR. I thought that would be the next announcement, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah, so you bought a studio for 300 million whatever, and what are they working on when they put out 6 VR games? And Stormland was their big banger. So wouldn't you expect Stormlands to be a day one PS5 treat for PSVR owners? Looks like nope. So it's mixed messages going on. They're not even announcing what Insomniac's working on besides Spider-Man and Miles Morales. So
Yeah,
it's confusion everywhere.
that is a very interesting point that you bring up right there, because I completely forgot about that. And that is definitely something that people were talking about a long time ago, whether that would happen or
Yep.
not. And yeah,
Yeah.
Insomniac. I mean, because people were talking about does Oculus have the rights to Stormland? Who has the rights to Stormland? Could it happen? And I think it was discovered that technically Stormland could be on PlayStation VR. I think that was the final word
Yeah,
on that.
the result of everything that came out, Sony owns everything Stormland. Anything that was contractually coming out on PC was coming out. Anything in the future would have to be negotiated, but Stormland is Sony's IP.
Yeah. Well, as long as we've got Star Child coming in the first quarter of next
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little
Hey,
bit of.
hey, we thought Gollum was never coming out. We got Gollum.
And not only did we get Golem, but Golem was damn good too.
I
Wouldn't
ate my words on Gollum. It was well done.
yeah? Wouldn't you think a game like Star Child would be like 80% done by now? Like it was just a 2D kind of VR-ish side scroller, like
Yeah. I think they ran out of money. If I
yeah.
remember right, I think if you go back to last
They
year, and there
fired
was a
everybody.
story, they got everybody fired right after they received like $100 million in seed money. So if you go back and find some articles,
Oh
you'll
man.
find that they received a round of money and then fired everybody. So we're not even sure if Star Child's even owned by that company. They might have been purchased, they might have been moved around. You can't get a tweet out of them for the last year, maybe.
Interessante.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, man, it's not the happiest discussion that we've ever had about PlayStation VR, but we still love this platform. There's still a lot of great games on this platform. In fact, I can show you guys. We've got a top 200 over at PlayStation at VR Game Rankings. It's been a long time since we've updated this list, but still, you can kind of see it, and just so many great games that are still on this platform. Farpoint, Walking Dead, Beat Saber, Astrobot, Resident Evil, Skyrim, Wipeout, Moss. Like, there are still incredible games that are on this platform, and some of these games actually make PC VR gamers a little bit jealous. For example, Farpoint. That people like, number one PlayStation VR game. It's an incredible experience. It's like Action Jackson, and it's like a movie that you jump into, incredible graphics and sounds. And PCVR gamers are not playing that. They're not playing Astrobot. They're not playing Resident Evil 7. They're not playing Wipeout, a Mega Collection. They're not playing Firewall Zero Hour, which is kind of amazing after all this time. They're not playing Blood and Truth. They're not playing Ace Combat 7. They're not playing Golem. They're not playing Iron Man. They're not playing Static. They are playing Paper Beast now. They're not playing Until Dawn. They're not playing Table of Tales. So I mean, there are these games. There's still classic games for PlayStation VR. There's a back catalog. So if you're a PSVR gamer, you can always mine the back catalog. You can look out for holiday sales where some of these games drop down to like $5, $7, $8. Sometimes you can find physical versions for dirt cheap, different places. So you can do that as well. We still have a list of games coming. So there are games that are still coming. Like you talk to a developer like Cloudhead Games. They just released Pistol Whip on PlayStation VR. Do they think PlayStation VR is dead? Probably not. They're probably selling a lot of copies, and they're probably very happy. And so, this thing is going to work tomorrow. I'm going to fire it up for Hitman 3. And so I guess we got to just look on the bright side. And hopefully maybe in the month of December, somebody from Sony is in a question and answer session and gives us some more information about how all this stuff breaks down. I think that's basically the way we got to look at it, right? I mean, Kev, how do you spin it kind of in a positive direction and go forward?
If you want to be positive, if you own a headset today, you have access to 200 plus experiences and games. Those will be there. We are getting more of those games over the next 2 years. There's no doubt about it. So as far as today goes, it's still working. You still have access to those games. More are coming, and you probably have 2 to 3 years left with it.
And you've saved yourself $600.
Yeah,
congratulations.
You can get a PC. Yes, you save $600 and you can get a PC rig and go high end, and then you'll never put on your PSVR because you'll see what the real VR looks like.
No.
But yeah, exactly. So it's not all negative. There's plenty of positives here. It's just a shame that the head of a $1 billion corporation gives vague information and quotes out that are left to our interpretation. We're staunch gamers. We just want to feel like we're included in the overall plan. Some say it's entitlement, but we just love our product, and we just want to know what the future is, even if it's 2 to 3 years out. That's all.
Yeah, it's possible, like, you drop some information like this. Like, remember when the Facebook account information dropped? Like, that information dropped, and then they just walked away from it, and nothing happened for, like, a month and a half, and then, bam, Quest 2. And so it's kind of like you drop the big bad news drop, and then so sometimes they'll drop something like this, and they leave people to speculate. And then later we get a little bit more information and find out what's really going on. So
yeah, exactly. He might have not really wanted to say what he said. He was there for PlayStation 5. They're focused on that right now during a pandemic. His mind was on that. He might have said something that he later said, I really didn't put the positiveness that I wanted to on that. He might clarify later. But yeah, I mean, right now we have what we have, and let's just enjoy it. We'll be playing Hitman 3 in a few months, hopefully Elite Sniper in December. And just go from there. If we get PSVR 2, whatever. But right now, that's not on the horizon. Just enjoy what you have.
Yeah, and there's always games that are coming out, surprise launches like Twilight Path coming out of nowhere and Ninja Legends coming out of nowhere. And there's going to be a lot more games like that as well. So I'm sure it's going to have a steady stream of software. Oh, you know what we didn't talk about? Wait, one quick second before we bounce out of here. Oh damn, did I let me see, go back over here. Okay, here we go, dude. We got to talk about the store, man. The website. The website. How do you find anything?
Before, right? I thought it was bad before, but I found my way around that horrible store to find VR. I can't find anything. You can't sort by release date. I can't find VR titles. It is just a wall of blocky pictures. It is the most. They had to put 2 interns on that in the basement because it is just insane how they think that is what people want to see a storefront.
Yeah, dude, also think about this. Okay, so VRGameRankings.com, like we would have these little individual pages for all these PlayStation VR games, right?
Yeah.
And on the page, like it would say like PlayStation VR, and you could click that button and it would go directly to the store page. Guess
Yes.
what? When they came up with this, all of those links that we had, they're all dead now. They're all dead. So, and like, we're not the only website that would do that. I'm sure there's tons of, like, Upload VR would have an article and they would talk about Moss on PlayStation VR. And then at a little spot in the article, there would be a thing you could click on it and it would go to the PlayStation Store. I bet you that link is now broken. And so they
Yeah.
broke all those links. But not only that, it's like the store is just kind of like, how do I find out? Is there a way, Kevin, I can find out what came out today or yesterday or the day before? How do we just have to randomly search through this entire thing?
Yeah, when I went to it the other day to see if they updated it, there used to be a place where you pick your like PSVR and then pick newest releases. Wasn't perfect, but it worked. There's no function that say newest releases for PSVR. What I found was like the landing page looks like it's putting the newest releases first with VR integrated. So if you're looking for one title that you think came out, you have to go through all the
Oh my
thumbnails.
God. You've
It
got
is
to go
bad.
through all the PS. So here we are. This is new games. And you can see here Ninja Legends. There is an actual
Yes.
PSVR game right there, but
Yeah.
it's
See how
mixed
it's
in with
mixed in there?
everything else.
It's so bad. Now
Oh,
there is
Twilight Path.
a VR title that you click on, but again, that's not in order by releases. It is so poorly done, and I'm completely lost.
Wow. Yeah, it's almost like when I was looking at it, it was like you couldn't make this worse if you tried to make it worse. It's almost
Exactly.
like they tried to make it like terrible. It's
Yeah, they don't want you to
crazy.
find what you want to buy. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for people like us that are like, well, what are the most recent games that come out? Now we have to do like an
Yeah.
hour of research to find that out because we
Well,
got
there are other sites like PS Deals or something like that that will aggregate to new releases. So now I'm using third-party websites to figure out what came out and how much it is, rather than using the source material. It's so
wow.
bad.
So
Yeah.
PS deals, that's a good tip right there.
Yeah,
Uh,
there are sites, I don't know the exact names, that will actually put the new releases in category and help you out. And then they'll show you the trend of when's the last time they were on sale and give you the history, something that Sony, won't do.
Yeah, hard to get in chat says the store might still be under construction. We better hope it is. We
Yeah,
better
I've
hope
noticed
it's
that
still.
they've changed. Like, I think a week ago, they did not even have a dedicated PSVR category. And I noticed that in the last couple of days, they put that there. So he's right. They're probably still banging it out, and they wanted to go live before the PS5 launch.
Yeah, yeah. Alrighty. Well, anyways, we're still gonna stay hopeful, and we're still gonna hope for the best with PlayStation VR. It's not quite
Yep.
dead yet. It's still working. I can still play Astrobot. There. I mean, think of all the great PSVR games that you haven't completely finished that you know you
Oh,
really should finish. So we got all of
exactly.
those, and there's plenty of games coming for a while, and we'll just play it by ear. But
Yeah,
Kev
exactly.
Gret, thank you so much for joining me on today's show. I absolutely appreciate it. But that's pretty much going to go ahead and wrap it up for this particular episode of VR365, and we'll see you guys next time. So everybody take it easy.
See you,
Later.
everybody. Thank you.